Hello, Scorpio. This is your reading for the week of April 27th, or when you hear it and it resonates. Of course, it will not be for every Scorpio. So, Scorpio, the cool thing for me about this reading is that 2 days ago, when I was anticipating doing readings, and I thought Scorpio, immediately something appeared in front of me, and it was a snake. Now, we know snakes can be considered. However, this was a magnificent snake. This was beautiful. And it was partially coiled and it was on its way up. It was a silver snake, not gray, it was silver. It was shiny, it was opalescent, and it had tones of gentle, deep teal green and more green than teal, and violet, mauve. Just beautiful, beautiful. And this keeps coming back to me every time I think Scorpio. This is what presents itself to me. So as I was looking at this snake, and as I'm looking at it now, because it stopped in its half-coiled position, what I'm being reminded of as I was asking Spirit what we were going to do with this reading was the fact that the snake represents the caduceus. The first thing that I heard when I asked about the snake was I heard Kundalini rising. So here's the thing. If you don't know about Kundalini, it's something that is spoken of in the yogic tradition, and it's really talking about the fact that we have energy locked in our bodies at the base of our spine, and that as our consciousness grows, this bundle of energy, the Kundalini, will start transforming the nature of our nervous system so that the consciousness can rise gradually and expand our consciousness and our awareness. So it really is a physiological process. It starts with the idea of energy, but then everything does. And then it's from that the caduceus rises. The energy rises up the spine. And if you've ever noticed the medical models, it's the caduceus. It is the expression of a central line and then two snakes wrapping around it like this until it gets to the top where you see two wings. Now, the lovely thing about this is the feeling that I was getting as I was looking at this was that there are many of you who have done a lot of work within the cognitive processes, and that what's happening is a process of being able to leave behind some of the more I don't want to call them rigid, but really defined parameters of who you are, what your character is, what your personality is. It's changing. You've changed a lot, and it's continuing to change, because as you let go of those concepts psychologically, you free up energy in your system. And because the Kundalini rising is a process where you are really literally transforming physiologically, it takes energy to do that. So the more energy you free up, the more you have to have this process evolve. And the beautiful thing about it is, theoretically, it happens gradually and organically as your thoughts change, as your perception changes, your body energy changes, the chemistry changes. What I'm feeling for you, Scorpio, in this case is that you've got the choice card, and you've got the grace card, and you've got the childhood prayers card. Now, what came up when I started thinking silver, 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 because it was really clear. It's not gray, it's silver. So when I looked up silver, what it was talking about was definitely holding deep spiritual significance, and it was considered extremely prized. In fact, I believe it was in Egypt, they prized silver over gold because they had so much gold. But what they were talking about is that silver really represents a strong, powerful, intuitive, nurturing female energy. Scorpio, you don't always get defined that way, because you can have, even though it's a very inward facing energy, Scorpio energy, there's a lot of self-evaluation and self-study and wanting to get to the bottom of things. And one of the things that can happen is it's easy to get into a mind loop and to become kind of self-contained. Energetically, in a way where it doesn't always feel as though you're sharing your energy. It can feel like you're imposing energy. The difference being, you're not just sharing this way, but because you see, because you can, because you're able, because you can be very direct in your approach to everything. And when I say direct in your approach to everything, I mean, you'll be the person, you're not going to sit and think typically about, oh, geez, I think maybe I'd like to do that someday. You'll start investigating it. You'll get the details, you'll figure out what you need to do. But you've got the childhood prayers card here, and it's so interesting because I thought to myself, what card might come up around this? And it was childhood prayers, because the childhood prayers are asking you to go back and resurrect whatever prayers you had as a child and say them in the feminine gender. And if you don't have a prayer that you, so for example, the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, Our Mother who art in heaven, anything else that you want to do, even if there's no gender specific in your prayers, can you imagine that it is a divine female Godhead that you are talking to, as opposed to the typical male one, which even though we don't necessarily believe it, we do have an overlay of that in our perception. So what you're being told here is, as you are being able to make choices around your behaviors and lean into grace when you get into sticky situations, instead of necessarily always trying to figure it out, can you lean into that nurturing energy, that maternal energy? Can you bring alive more clearly and more specifically within your own mind what female energy is like, what it might feel like to you, and areas where you might be going a little bit more logical, where you could be going, I don't just want to say intuitive, because sometimes the logical going to the intuitive, if you have a lot going on in your head, can lead to maybe a little bit of mind looping and a little bit of over assessment, needing to know the details to things that aren't necessarily relevant and can kind of take you off track. So what we're really talking about here is, many of you are starting to notice, oh, thank you. Many of you are starting to notice that there are changes in the way you think about things, and it is happening organically. Part of what's happening is your consciousness is changing. You might notice there are changes in your body that you haven't defined yet. Now, of course, I cannot diagnose, I cannot assess anything. This is not a medical statement, but you might notice, you might notice that there are changes happening in your energy that you're not aware of. If that's the case, or that didn't sound very intelligent, there may be changes happening in your energy systems that you're going to feel, but you're not really understanding what it is, and you may not be aware of the fact that it is a shift in your energy or a raising of your consciousness. You might just feel a little discombobulated. What you're being told here is, remember the snake, focus on the snake, use the colors silver and violety, purple, mauve, whatever shades work for you, that you can use that in your meditations. You can use that in your visualization as a way to calm your nervous system and just soften it, because that's what it feels like. The nervous system, fight, flight, freeze response, the fiery response is fight, flight, freeze response. The relaxation response is ease, soft, serotonin, calm, nurturing, and that quality of softness, that it's not about going out and doing, which can be very Scorpio. It's about sitting and receiving and centering. And so this is what you're being told is, notice what your choices are around your behaviors, around how you decide you want to act and behave in any particular situation. These are the moments when you can look at this and say, is this more of a fiery energy, a more out energy, or is this more just offering kind of open energy, a softer energy? And soft is not weak. So softer can be absolutely as powerful. It's just not quite, it's not always perceived as intense. So this might be what you're learning, thank you, is some of your intensity can be dialed back a little bit. And the way to do that is to focus on, notice what it feels like, and then work with the colors of the silver and the mauve, and allow those colors and the frequency of those colors to kind of soften you into just that wonderful central place in your system where you can say, okay, now I'm going to experiment with this quality of energy. I'm going to bring more of the what they would call the female qualities of this energy to the forefront. Even though I have the capacity to be as intense and as fiery, I'm going to focus on the softer quality of this for now, because it's also going to help me locate in my brain where my thought processes and my mind mechanisms might not be acting in a way where it really allows me to access the energy of the higher conscious mind, where I might just be getting stuck a little bit. All in all, this is beautiful. I feel as though this is really the opportunity for you right now to really understand the fact that you are going through major physiological energetic changes, to treat yourself kindly, to notice the choices you're making in terms of how you want to be, how you want to respond and interact, and notice where it's super intense. It may feel absolutely normal to you, but notice people's responses, because if people are backing up or going, maybe it's a little bit more intense than they can personally handle. Doesn't mean that you don't have this wonderful power and energy that is wonderful to share. It's just this is a point now where you can start balancing it out more, so it can be as driven and as intense as it needs to be when you want to accomplish a particular thing. But you have the option now of being in the other energy more easily than you were before. And part of that is because when you're not so busy taking care of other people, you don't have to be in that driven state. So now, if you're allowing yourself to step back from being in that position of authority, how is your energy going to change in response to that in a way that is beneficial for you, for your growth in consciousness, and for your overall well-being? I leave you with that and your bejeweled snake of higher consciousness. Maybe that's a title. Take care, my dear Scorpios. Much love.